Welcome back to MR Fishing Ohio, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite lure. I've made some videos in the past talking about my favorite lures in general, what lures I use all like year round, but I'm going to hone in on the spinnerbait specifically, and one of the reasons I'm going to do that is because I think personally it's one of the most versatile lures that you can use, and the different clips I have included in here are just going to back up my opinion to show how versatile it is, but also just kind of go over how I use it depending where I'm at. And some of that is color and some of that is blade style, but in general, what you'll see over these next couple clips is that I've caught fish on a spinnerbait in wildly different situations, in wildly different locations, in a vast variety of color of water and types of water. So the first clip you watched was from a crystal clear Michigan natural lake, and this clip you're watching now, that you'll be watching for a few minutes, is a Ohio river that empties into Lake Erie that's anything but clear and is mostly devoid of a lot of plants. I found one little pocket that had some emerging vegetation and some pads, but other than that, it's pretty hard to find much like underwater plants and things of that nature. In the previous clip, you would have seen I was fishing in a big reed field. And here I'm fishing in front of a pad field, and then I'll go into the pad field and catch another bass. So two very different kinds of water, and then two very different kinds of just clarity of the water. So mud brown versus crystal clear. The only thing I did was change the color of the spinnerbait. But in both instances, you'll notice that the depth of water is very different too. I was fishing in 10 foot of water in the previous clip, but in this clip I was maybe in 2 to 3 feet. And how I approach those kinds of water is different. If I'm in a deeper, clear body of water that has heavy weed growth, I'm gonna throw a spinnerbait and reel it in slower simply. And a lot of times I'm fishing that a foot, maybe 2-3 feet underneath the surface, and I'm slow rolling it. And I'm putting it closer to where the fish are. In this shallow water stuff, 3 feet or less, for the most part, I'm burning the spinnerbait. And I'm throwing it relatively quick. Making fast casts and reeling it in very fast in shallow water, near cover. I'm throwing it right up against the bank. I'm throwing it right at selected targets. When I'm fishing in some of these other areas in the other clips, I'm out in the middle of nothing. And the spinnerbait works there too. And that's what my main point is, that you can catch fish on a spinnerbait in such a varied variety of environments. And that's because it does two things. It puts out vibration so the fish can know it's there, whether it's clear water or murky water. But also it doesn't really resemble, like it's not trying to physically look so much like a fish, but it's mimicking the behavior. One, it's sounding like a fish to a fish, if that makes sense. There's not a fish that looks like a spinnerbait. Maybe the trailer, but everything else about it is pretty unnatural looking. Now in the water, the flash definitely mimics maybe a small school of bait fish. But in dark, murky water, the bass isn't really seeing that bait fish super well, but it is able to sense it, and the flash definitely helps it locate the bait.
Oh my God.
So in both these two different places, so this is two different states. We've hit Ohio and Michigan. And as I keep going, I'm also going to go to two more different kinds of water. So we've covered muddy water. We've covered clear water, and this has been a natural lake, and then this is a natural river system. And they're very different, but the spinnerbait works in both places. Now, the only thing I changed is in the first instance, I was slow rolling a turtle blade and a natural color of green. And in this video, I was using a double willow leaf with more gray white baitfish color. And you'd probably think, that doesn't seem like a color that would stick out too much in the muddy water. And you'd be right. But I found shad patterns in the summer. They pretty much work anywhere. I've caught fish on this color of lure from Canada to the United States. Just about anywhere I've gone, I've caught bass on this color.
Aggressive bass.
And I'm going to let the clip go here. It should be in a second. But this next spot I'm going to be showing is a third different style body of water. And in this instance, this is a man-made pond. Shallow, super grassy. More grass than either of the previous two places. So it's kind of a turbid water at this point in the year. Not super clear, but not to where it's like, oh, you can't see anything. And in this instance, the weather's different. And the clip before was before a storm.
Oh, that's a huge
relatively
that's a
clear.
Huge call.
In this instance, was right after a storm, still raining a bit. And then the first clip was just kind of an overcast day. Now, the spinnerbait works whether it's cloudy, whether it's sunny, when it's windy, and when it's dead flat calm. But I do find the time it works the best is in the conditions you're seeing in this video right here.
That just calls the one I caught.
A little bit of rain, a little bit of wind,
he's
overcast. That's usually where I have that lure locked in my hand, because when they're aggressive and you have this kind of weather, there's not many lures they hit harder than a spinnerbait. And not many lures that can get through the grass in an effective manner. That's also power fishing. A lot of your power fishing lures struggle in certain weed conditions and when it's too windy, because your chances of getting snagged up are pretty great. And then this last clip, second to last clip actually, I'm in Florida, Lake Okeechobee. I'm throwing a different color spinnerbait in a more tannic kind of water. And in this instance, I'm fishing this huge weeded area in the northern part of the lake.
There we go.
On isolated, taller patches of grass. And it's really shallow. And I was just burning the spinnerbait. And
that's what I'm talking about.
I caught it in the similar fashion that I was fishing in the river.
No,
but I'm miles from any shore.
I so find the right pace.
It's not a lure that
was pretty slow.
Something you can only throw.
I normally burn
and beat the bank.
Burn it.
You can be out in the dead center of the lake, and as long as there's structure where there's grass,
I got it.
It's a lure that you can use.
Really wanted it.
And that's why ultimately I like it so much.
So he's got a little beat up.
Versatility. The trouble with a lot of lures in bass fishing is that they get pigeonholed to specific types of water or specific times of year.
Must have ate a bluegill in it.
Lures you want to get the best
piece of grass.
Are lures that you can use basically from ice out until the ice comes back. And that is exemplified in this last clip. Another man-made body of water that I fish quite a bit. It's deeper than the other pond I was fishing earlier. This also was just this spring, and the water was 45 degrees. So was catching fish in these clips from anywhere of water to 45 to almost 80 degrees of water. So
that's a good one.
Temperature doesn't matter.
Stay down.
Location of the country doesn't matter. The type of water doesn't matter. Lake, river, man-made reservoir, a spinnerbait catches fish. And ultimately, the only three things you need to do to succeed with a spinnerbait: figure out how fast the fish want it, so your reel speed, the color to best match the water and clarity, and then what kind of blade you want to use. Do you want to throw it slow, or do you want to burn it fast? And you figure those things out,
chunker.
You're usually going to have a pretty good day in the water.
Number two.
And it's just one of those lures that
I've found myself using more and more.
So thanks for tuning in. See you on the next one.